We've all had those games where your top is playing Yasuo and ends up going 0-10 and becoming completely dead weight. Or someone who is first timing or off-rolling Malphite top because they think it's a good pick and becomes equally as useless. In this clip here, I am watching my Malphite die for the 8th time in a row without having done anything. So it's annoying, right? It makes the game hard to win and you end up tilting and FFing at 15 minutes, right? Or do you? These games are actually completely winnable, and today I want to share with you exactly how we go about carrying these types of games where your teammates are basically inting. I'm going to break it up into 3 main sections: mentality, champion identity, and the reality of solo queue. So let's get into it. Kicking it off with mentality, fed bot is greater than fed top. If you have a fed bot lane, this is going to beat a fed top lane every time if you play your cards right. We can easily develop our own narrow perspectives as bot laners that when your top feeds, the game becomes so hard to play. Take a second to ask any top laner how they feel when their bot lane goes 0-10 instead, and what the classic top laner experience actually feels like. When an ADC and a support is ahead, the map just completely opens up for that team. You get to control the middle of the map, you get to set up for any objectives that you want, you can collapse on side lanes, you can win team fights because you have the support performing their role really well and the ADC being really fed. On the other hand, when a top laner is ahead, depending on their champion, they basically have 2 options, right? They're either going to be split pushing and putting a little bit of pressure on side lane towers, or to try to move to a fight first before the other top laner does. And while that's not nothing, and while it's not impossible for top laners to carry a game, trying to out-carry a fed bot as a fed top is David vs Goliath odds. So let your top side rot into irrelevance, take the responsibility of being as strong as your top is weak, and take on the task of out-carrying the enemy top side. A simple perspective shift can go a long way in winning these types of games. Be a competitor. Make it hard for anyone to take your LP no matter what is going on, and take pride in that. This is one of the biggest areas of mentality that I've worked on throughout myself playing League of Legends for 10 plus years. I attribute this as the main reason actually to why I have hit Challenger for the last 9 years in a row. If you treat every game as winnable, you never surrender, you fight to the bitter end, only good things are going to come from that approach. What's going to happen is that you're going to be caring about results less because you're focused on your performance instead, and then you're going to have, fewer emotional reactions to winning and losing and just have a more stable journey with League of Legends. You're also going to win games that you didn't know were even possible to win. You're going to develop the actual skill of playing from behind and constantly assessing win conditions. You're going to maintain a healthier relationship with the game of League because you're not letting your negative emotions have any power over you. So there are so many reasons to never surrender and just to really embrace being a competitor by principle. If you're on the Rift, you're there to play, you're fighting to win. So I've talked about out-carrying the enemy topside, but what if our topside is behind, but we're not meaningfully ahead either? The game is still winnable. Just don't try to make unrealistic plays. Keep making appropriate decisions. Understand that on paper you are not going to win every game, and that's totally fine, but you can definitely maximize the chance of you winning each game through informed decisions. There's no faster way to lose a game of League than you're behind, you're feeling pressured to do something crazy and magical to make a comeback. It doesn't work, of course. It was a bad decision even if you weren't far behind, and you end up just snowballing the game and losing immediately. So this is where I want to pivot into the reality of solo queue for a little bit. Games are always winnable. You need to experience these gigantic comeback wins so that you can understand this for yourself, instead of thinking that this dude has no idea what he's talking about, my games are actually unwinnable. This right here is a game that I ended up winning. We can see that we were 23 kills to 1 down. We were 15,000 gold down by 15 minutes, and we ended up winning this game. Did we need a little bit of help from the enemy team? Sure, they got complacent. Did we need to perform really well in skirmishes? Absolutely. Did we need to assess win cons? Absolutely. But these are the games that you need to just win once in a while to remind yourself that games are always winnable. And this is just one of the most rewarding parts of playing League, when you actually make a comeback, because you earned your victory and you feel good about yourself for just really being a competitor. So why is it the case that games are always winnable? Well, people get complacent, people get lazy, people start to think that it's an automatic free win, and then they start autopiloting and they make worse decisions. They start to check out mentally with the game. Especially in lower elos, people also have no idea how to close out games. They end up A-ramming, they end up just sieging mid-towers until they overextend and then they all die. So people will get caught. They were going to give over gigantic kill bounties of gold. They're going to give huge amounts of experience as well. Objective bounties exist, so when you do take objectives, they're going to give you a big burst of gold as well that you can play for. There's going to be a lot of standing gold on the map naturally. If you're behind, you haven't taken many towers. If you get an opportunity to take towers, that's going to be a big comeback. So a lot of the time, all it really takes is one slip up to get a couple kill bounties, objective bounties, a tower here and there, and suddenly you're right back in the game, and now you have the momentum, and people are scared of having thrown the game, and they're not really focused on what they should be doing. Also, just the reality of games and the flow of a game of League, generally, one side will be strong and one side will be weak. It's very rare, actually, for every role and every part of the map to win altogether. For example, let's say your top lane gets solo killed 3 times. Your jungle doesn't really want to move topside because it's likely that they will lose any fight that they go to there. They also can't take objectives or counter jungle because their top laner is losing. So it basically becomes a no-go zone for them and for your mid laner. And so they just leave top on an island. They're going to go towards bot instead. That's where they're investing their resources. And they're going to help you to get ahead yourself. And then the game becomes a little bit polarized. Of course, this is going to be vice versa for the enemy jungle, right? If you are stomping bot, then the enemy jungle is less likely to want to be around the bottom side of the map. So let's use this reality. If your top is inting and your jungler is on your side of the map, and you don't make use of his proximity to you, you may have griefed the game. It's not enough for you to just go even when your top is behind. And this is why we need to outcarry the top, and we should outcarry the top if we're getting resources from our team, right? It's not like you necessarily have to stomp the enemy in an isolated 2v2. You can use your team, you can use your understanding of the map to help you just get ahead anyway. But all of this to say that these types of game states are natural and we need to accept and understand them. Let's have a look at some examples now. So for this first game, our top got super far behind and we weren't absolutely stomping the enemy bot lane. We were doing reasonably well. But this is a game where you need to be a competitor to win. So where we're jumping in here is we're going to kind of jump into the pit to try and steal the Baron. Doesn't end up working out. They get the Baron. I die. My jungler flashes. They clean up a couple more kills on the back end. Spirits are not high within the team here. An FF vote comes up. So this is just kind of a classic moment where everyone just wants to FF and get out of the game because something really bad happened. What I like to do when there is an FF vote is I don't even vote. I just pull the vote off to the side of the screen like that because it's not worth my attention or my time. Now jumping forwards to when we're coming out of base, this is the state of the game. As you can see, top lane is in an absolutely disastrous situation. Down 2 levels, 1 and 7. Down 2 completed items. Our mid laner is 2 levels behind and is 2 and 5. But all in all, we're in trouble, right? Top lane is a big issue. They have a lot more towers. We are significantly far behind in dragons, as we can see here, in gold because objective bounties are existing. But we're just going to keep making decisions that are most informed, right? We're not going to try to make a magical 1v5 outplay to carry the game. We're going to make it hard for the enemy team to take our LP. And so let's see what ends up happening. And this is just going to be the reality of solo queue as well. They do a pretty forced fight here, initially like 3v4. We mis-execute the fight as a team a little bit, but they're just taking a really forced play, and they're taking a lot of damage, and our Fed ADC is doing a lot more than the Fed Irelia is in this organized fight, especially if we're not allowing the Irelia to get on top of the Jinx. And this is just what happens when a Fed top comes up against a Fed bot in just a front-to-back team fight. So what ends up happening is we get the ace, they all die, and now the game is just completely turned on its head. And just a small side point here is I'm immediately thinking about what I want. I'm not thinking about, oh my god, we're making a magical comeback, this is awesome. I'm staying engaged, I'm thinking about what we should be doing. You can see my pings here, I'm pinging someone to go mid, I'm pinging someone to go bot. I'm typing that we can't end, we just ace the enemy team, but that doesn't mean we kill the enemy nexus. So we're just going to, try to maximize this window as much as possible, always staying, thinking, and engaged. Because the last thing that we would want to have happen on this window is that we just ARAM and end up dying by the enemy mid inhibitor. And then jumping forwards again, how the game is going to conclude is that they are going to, again, try to take an even number team fight. Our bot lane is going to outperform the enemy top lane. We end up getting the ace, and then we're going to win just like that. How easy would it have been to press yes on that FFO, or to try to jump in and make a magical engage happen, when instead the game was handed to us and we accepted it? And believe me, games are going to get handed to you. For the next example here, this is the state of the game. Top lane is getting destroyed. He's down 2 levels. He has obviously died a lot. And my ADC isn't even ahead, as we can see here, right? We have a super fed jungle, and that's basically it. So this is the state of the game. We have one super fed member, they have one super fed member. I'm going to out carry their fed member, their source of pressure. Mordekaiser is in a mobile juggernaut. I'll let him win top 1v1 and instead try to win every other inch of the rest of the map. So let's have a look at what that is going to look like. I'm looking to pressure around the middle of the map, and with my pressuring fed teammate here with Kindred, we can see on the minimap, Mordekaiser is pressuring top. Good for him. He can put pressure on our tier 2 top tower if he wants. I'm instead going to be fighting around the middle of the map. And he's just going to be too slow to get here even if he wanted to. He just can't keep up with the pace of the game and the pressure around the middle of the map. We're going to be able to set up for objectives, catch people out of position before he can get anything meaningfully done. He's killing our ADC in a side lane. Again, who cares? We're going to get kills, we're going to get the Baron. Then we'll respond to his side wave and then go right back to just dominating the rest of the map. And this is what I mean by the classic top laner experience. You get ahead, but the rest of your team is behind, and it's very hard to outcarry a bot. If he tries to group up, we'll see him coming. We could potentially collapse on him while he tries to do that, because he's going to be so disconnected from his team. He's going to be very slow. He's going to lose a front-to-back fight because our fed Kindred is going to do better than a fed Mord in a 5v5. And I was just doing my thing for this whole game. I couldn't care less about top. I'll carry regardless of what happens up there. And that's the mentality that I want to instill in you guys. Let's move on to champion identity, and this is where we're getting more into gameplay and game knowledge and execution rather than mentality. What we want to do is to dominate so hard 2v2 that you can carry regardless of what's happening on top side. Easier said than done, right? But if you want to climb, you need to consistently outperform the enemy. And winning bot starts first from understanding your champion and their identity. Do you know how to win games on your champion? What do they want? What don't they want? Are you a Pyke who wants to stomp early game and snowball the game out of control? Are you a Rakan who wants to minimize early and skirmish later on? Are you a Sona who wants to group up with the whole team and provide utility? We need to understand our champion and their basic framework. Moving away from our champion, understanding other champions' basic identities is going to help as well. I'm going to keep it up with the extreme examples. Let's say you have an Ivan jungle, the enemy has an Elise jungle, your Ivan gets invaded, they die, they start to fall behind. That's fine, relax, stay composed. Ivan is going to heavily outscale the Elise. You just got to weather the storm and the game is still completely winnable. That knowledge can help to keep your mental strong as well. So I'm just going to jump right into some examples now and talk about how my knowledge of my champion's identity allowed me to win some crucial fights in really close games. Alright, so for our first example here, we are obviously playing the Rell. And what we are going to be looking to do here, or I guess first of all, we are quite far behind, right? We can see that we have objective bounties up, our jungle is behind, our mid is behind, our top is behind, our ADC has a reasonable amount of resources, but they're not very good and they're not going to carry the game. So it's really up to us to execute on our champion's identity as well and as precisely as possible to win this game. So let's see what happens here. It may not look like the most complicated thing on paper, but I was really embracing my champion's identity, what I want to do, what I don't want to do. I am a fantastic source of primary engage when I have my flash as Rell. I'm pressuring near my pressuring jungle. When they are pressuring, I want to pressure because I'm going to be able to skirmish very well with my jungle. I'm going to be really valuing my cooldowns here. I'm not going to be randomly throwing out my Q, fishing for a stun if it's not the perfect time. I'm not going to be dismounting my W onto just one person or when it could get cancelled or flashed very easily. Patient but precise engage at the right moment. And that leads to a really crucial moment of this game where we win this skirmish. And now we go from being behind to even after this decision. Jumping forwards, the game is back and forth for a while now. My mid laner dies. We end up having to give the Baron, not looking too good, but that's fine. Instead, I'm going to respond by unfortunately not being able to cancel any of the bases, but running towards the bottom side of the map and looking to set up a pick. My champion is very good at picks, at skirmishes. My champion is very mobile as well. And so I'm going to look to use that to my advantage. I'm going to communicate to my team here that I want to try to look for a pick, right? They're all coming from top side, bot side. They're not going to have much vision. There's the Rumble. We're going to collapse on him. We're going to get a pick here. We know that we're getting collapsed on from the middle of the map, so we're just going to get a quick base off. We're going to translate this kill to setting up for the upcoming dragon. This is sole point for the enemy. I'm sure you can appreciate that that pick came about from us. We really communicated and set up that and made sure that we were in fog. So now, here's a fight where the enemy top laner is still dead. The enemy really wants to get this dragon, right? It's sole point for them. They have Baron. They're probably feeling pretty good. But now I'm a flashless Rell, so I don't have that primary engage option from the front. So instead, I paused around the terrain over here. I'm trying to stay in fog. I want to make sure that they don't really see me coming, or if they do see me coming, they don't have as much time to react. So now I'm going to let the fight play out a little bit. We have number advantage. My ADC is grouping up. I'm going to channel Hex Flash. I'm going to try to get a bit of a surprise engage on them on the back end here. Try to get as many people in my combo as possible. And now we're suddenly going to win the game through really embracing our champion's identity and excelling at what they can do really well. There are about 1,000 alternative scenarios where the last couple of minutes played out differently and we don't end up winning the game. So this is why it's so important to understand your champion and what they do well. Would I have done this on a Sona? Probably not. But would I have searched for an alternative way to win the game if I was playing Sona? Absolutely. Maintain a small champion pool, get really good at the champions you play, and then situations like this can happen for you. Next example, we are the Senna here, and the state of the game is my top lane is losing. As we can see, my jungle is in an awful spot. He's already 5 deaths and a level behind. My mid lane is doing fine, but what's happening in this early game is we're just winning 2v2 bots straight up. We have a huge item advantage. We've almost killed the enemy bot tower already, and we're going to heavily outscale a Kai'Sa and a Poppy as a Nilah and a Senna. I understood my champion, how to make sure I don't die. I understood the enemy champions, just don't stand next to a wall against a Poppy and then just try to dominate 2v2 through the war of attrition as much as possible. I understood Nilah early. She doesn't want to have too much volatility in the early levels, but level 3 and especially level 6, she starts to get a lot of threat. So all of that knowledge has helped me to generate a 2v2 lead and a win condition and to set us up to be in a reasonable spot in the mid to late game, even if a lot of the rest of the map is suffering. The rest of the game is going to be pretty back and forth. We are playing on our champion's limits. We understand that we don't want to face check, that we want to kind of play front to back and get our damage out. And as long as we stay alive, then it's going to be hard for the enemy to just completely snowball the game out of control. This culminates in another ARAM fight where personally I am very happy to take this against a Poppy. Right, my champion is going to do much better. I'm in a much better spot. I have 3 items. Poppy has already been outscaled, but now it's up to me to carry. Spacing, dodging, dealing damage. Playing right on the edge of my limits here. Staying away from terrain against the Poppy. Dodging skill shots, landing skill shots. Softening them up. Basically 1v3ing them, keeping them interested. Sniping through wards even. And then we basically saved the game on that window, and that is going to be through champion mastery, champion identity, being really good at my champion, understanding what they do want, what they don't want. Obviously a very different picture to Rell, but this is how we ended up winning this game. Okay, this next example, obviously I'm playing the Bard here and I'm going to embrace my champion's identity, but I'm also going to refuse to allow a weak map state and to translate my pressure. What's going to happen here is we're going to shove bot so that I can free myself up to roam, right? If I don't shove bot first, then my ADC could be in a sticky situation, lose waves, die, get dove, all of those things. So I'm going to make sure that my bot is happy here, shove this wave as quickly as possible, start to translate that pressure that we just generated towards the middle of the map. Linking up with my pressuring jungle as well. So now I'm going to be creating some fog of war around bot river to help my mid laner so that they're safer, so that the enemy mid is under more threat. I'm going to help my jungle to potentially secure this camp here so that he's happy. I'm going to physically gank mid through the wall here. I'm going to execute it well and land my Q on the wall as well. Get a kill there, mid's happy, jungle's happy, bot is happy. So I'm basically just refusing to allow a weak map state. And this is how you can also deal with whatever happens topside. Another example coming up here. Controlling bot river, moving towards the middle of the map. Of course, Bard is going to do this very well. Other playmakers and engagers can translate their leads very doably as well. Enchanters and mages are going to have a bit of a tougher time, but you can still find windows. Going to be pressuring this immobile mage in the mid lane here. With my mid, with my jungle, execute it reasonably well. Again, kill the mid, shove mid, pressure with my jungle, shift up towards either killing whoever is top or securing grubs. We decide that the Gnar is just a bit overextended and we're going to kill him instead. So just picture this whole situation playing out if I just stayed bot, laned bot, and got a bit of a stronger 2v2 lead. Like, the state of the map and actually winning the game is going to be so much harder than finding windows to translate pressure to the rest of the map. Here's a quick snapshot of what's happening top. He's a level down already. He is getting doubled in CS. He's died twice. And we're going to easily snowball and carry this game in the end. So if you're good enough, you can carry these games where your top side is weak. So why not challenge yourself to do so? Or to learn how to do so instead of FFing next time. Just a quick disclaimer, I know that I threw a lot of emphasis on inting tops here. There's no malice towards top laners. I just needed an example to actually talk about. Thank you for watching. Please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting if you enjoyed the video. For world-class support, coaching, content, and community, go to wtl.lol/cupcake.